Hi, my name is Carola. Thank you for watching. This flow is appropriate for all levels. However, if you are not sure whether you should do this practice or not, please check with your doctor. Thank you for joining me. Paz y Luz.
It's going to be a beginner's type yoga class. So I'm going to talk about a lot of the beginner poses, things you see in yoga. So today we're going to start by standing up on our mats, and we're going to focus on Tadasana, which is mountain pose. So even though it's usually one of the easiest poses, when done correctly, it kind of makes it like you really feel it in your body. So to start off, we're going to start off with our feet. So what we want to do is when we put our feet, we want them hip width apart. And sometimes it's hard to figure out where the hip width is. So if you put your thumbs on your hips and then you look down, your feet should be just immediately right under it. And because mountain pose is a very grounding pose, we want to make sure that we're grounded on our feet. So what you want to do is when you put your feet down, you want to make sure that your toes are spread, they're all spread, and that this part right here, the outer part of your foot, is grounded. You're going to be pushing out of this part the whole time that you're in mountain pose. So go ahead and let's get into hip width, and then lift your toes and then plant them down. If your toes don't spread, because I know for me, I never used to spread my toes and it was a pain to get them to spread, you can just bend down, spread them, and then plant them back down. And that way your feet are grounded on the floor. And then what you want to do is, as we are standing here, you want to push out of that part that I talked about, that I showed you on the feet. You want to be pushing out of that part. So when you're standing, that helps you to be grounded. And not only that, when you start pushing out of the side of this side of your feet, you start activating your glutes. You start activating, glutes, your quads, and kind of a little bit of your core. So it kind of lengthens you, okay? So just pushing a little bit out. It's almost like you're in the sand and you're pushing out, trying to make that imprint in the sand. That's what you're kind of trying to do with your feet. And then lengthening up. So your core, it shouldn't be like super tight, like you're like lifting something heavy, but just a little bit so that it lengthens you. And then your shoulders, you want your shoulder blades in the back, your scapula, to kind of like lock in place. So how you do that is you just roll your shoulders, back so that they feel like they're locked in place, not like they're like this. You don't want this, you want them back, okay? And then that lifts you up, and then your head is going to be, your chin is going to be parallel to the floor. So you want your chin parallel. So what that's going to do is when you push your head back a little bit, it kind of stacks your neck and your head just all in one line. So you kind of feel like you're like a mountain. You feel very grounded, okay? And then you're still pushing out of the bottom of your feet. You're still kind of tightening up through the core, and your shoulders are back. So when you're standing like this is mountain pose. So it should feel very grounding. And it kind of gets, after a while, it gets kind of hard because when you're pushing out of your feet, it's kind of like it's activating everything. So it does get tiring. So that's how you know you're doing it right. So we're gonna, now that we're like this, so everybody should be with their shoulders back. And now we're gonna breathe. So let me face you guys. So when we breathe, we want to make sure that we're not like breathing like this. We don't want our shoulders to come up at all. We want everything to come from our diaphragm. So what that does, it's actually called diaphragmatic breathing, but I'll just call it belly breathing. So what you want to do is you're going to take your bottom, your diaphragm, and when you breathe, your belly's going to expand. So you're going to expand out. And what that's going to do is it's also going to cause your ribs to expand. You don't want your ribs to come up. You just want them to expand. So if you even want to, you can put your hands on the side. And then when you breathe in. So you're pushing your belly out, push, push, push out. And when you exhale, you push your belly button in as far as it goes. And then you breathe out. And then you breathe in. And then we're going to do that for a little bit. What you want to do is let's breathe in, and then you can, in your mind, count to 5, and then breathe out, counting to 5. So standing in mountain pose, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. And breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on your own, just count in your head. Let's do it 2 more times. Okay, and just being mindful throughout the whole practice that that's how we want to breathe. We want to belly breathe as we're doing our poses, and we make sure that we keep our mouth closed. Okay, so now breathing in, we're going to extend our arms up, and then what you want to do is lock your thumbs in place and breathe in. You're going to extend, and then as you exhale, we're going to stretch to your left. So you're going to go up, and then you're going to go over. So you're going to get a good stretch here on your right side. Making sure that when you are stretching, you're not just dumping weight on the left side. You're still active. So you're actively pushing out with your arms, and then you're actively pushing your fingers towards the opposite wall. It's almost like they want to touch. Okay? Breathe in, come back up, extend, 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 and exhale. We're going to go to the right. So up and over. And you're going to feel now the stretch on your left side. Still grounded, still making sure that we have our legs activated. Inhale, back up, and hands down. Okay, so we're just going to stretch our back just a little bit. So putting our hands on our hips, what you want to do is when you go back, just go back as far as you can go, where it doesn't cause any discomfort. And when you're going back, one thing I learned, because I always hated to do these little back bends, when you tighten your glutes, so that means tighten your bum and tighten a little bit your core, this whole area here, what happens is that that's what's driving your back bend instead of your back, because I kept hurting my back all the time doing it, and I didn't know why. And then I learned later on that, hey, if you use your core and your glutes, your muscles, they help your back. So putting our hands on our hips, just as far as you can go back, and if this is all we can do, then that's perfectly fine. So whatever you need today, you can put your head back, or if you want to keep it up like this, that's fine. Okay, and exhale. Okay, so now we're going to work just a little bit on balance too. So keeping our feet exactly how they are, we're going to slowly start shifting our weight to our right foot. Okay, hands on our hips. We're going to make sure that our hips still stay facing forward. Okay, Now lifting, lifting, lifting your left foot. And it's okay if you wobble and you fall. It's okay if this is as far as you can go. Okay, but if you can go all the 90 degrees, then that's perfectly fine. Okay, just making sure that your hips are straight. You're facing forward. Okay, trying to balance. And release. So now we're going to do the same thing with our right foot. So now planting your left foot, making sure it's grounded, making sure your toes are spread. Lift your right leg. Okay, 90 degrees or lower, that's wherever you can, making sure that your hips are even and facing forward. Okay, and come back down. So let's go ahead, find that mountain pose again, ground yourself. We're gonna take 2 deep breaths. So breathing in and out. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, so now we're gonna bend, 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 bend at our knees until we come all the way down to a sitting position. So let's go ahead and sit. Okay, and you can keep one foot in front of the other. You can sit crisscross applesauce, whatever is comfortable. But if sitting like this is a little uncomfortable, you can use a block and just place it right on your sitting bone. And that immediately causes your sitting bone and your back just to be straight. If you don't have a block, a pillow, a thick blanket, something like this, will also do the trick. Okay? So what you want to make sure is that your back is not slouched like this. You want to make sure that your whole torso is all one line. Okay? So let's go ahead and go back to, since we're sitting down, let's go back to Anjali Mudra, which is prayer hands. And before we continue, I invite you to set an intention. So an intention is something that maybe you need for today, or maybe the purpose of this class. Maybe for this class, you want to make sure that you don't, you're not hard on yourself. So, maybe an intention could be don't give up, or an intention can be maybe for the day, you have something coming up, having hope. I know hope has been one of mine a lot, or, peace. Peace has been one of mine too. So whatever you feel like you need for today, set that as your intention, because once you leave the mat, that intention is going to go with you throughout the day, or throughout the night. Okay, so I invite you, if you want, to close your eyes, do that belly breathing, and just set that intention for today. Okay, our next breathing in, go ahead and lift your hands up, palms together. And then we're going to exhale. So bring your left hand down to the mat, still active. So you're pushing out of the hand. Just always remember, in yoga, everything should always be active. So you should be actively pushing, actively moving. Nothing should just be slumped, because that's usually how a lot of times we get hurt. So we're going to actively push out of this arm, and then we're going to take our right arm and we're going to bend. So we're going to pretend like these fingers are trying to touch the wall, and you're going to feel it on your right side. And then from here, if you want to, whatever you need. If you want to put your head up, or maybe you feel like, you need a little good stretch, whatever you need to do to, or whatever your body needs, go ahead and do it. Breathe in, both hands up, and then you're gonna reach, 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 and exhale. Let's go to the right side, same thing, pushing out of your arm, and then your left arm is gonna be trying to touch the wall on the opposite side, and then you're gonna feel the stretch on your left side. Okay, up, reach, 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 and now we're going to twist. So we're gonna take our left hand and we're gonna put it right behind us, and our right hand is gonna be touching, it's gonna be holding your left knee. And you wanna twist from your torso. So you don't wanna be like this, twisting from your head. You wanna make sure that your whole torso is turning and that you're still keeping that length. You don't wanna dump your weight onto your lower back. You wanna make sure that you're still lifted as you're turning. So just turn as far as you can. So wherever you are, that is fine. Inhale up, reach, 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 reach. Exhale, same thing on the other side. Okay, making sure our torso is straight, hands on your back, or hands on the floor and behind you, and your left hand on your knee. All righty, and release. So now we're gonna go into tabletop. So let's find ourselves onto all fours, okay? And with this, if it hurts your knees to be on the mat, you can definitely grab a blanket and put it here to help you with your knees. Or if you don't have a blanket, one thing I learned from another yoga teacher was that you can take your yoga mat and kind of bend it on top, and then you can use that as padding for your knees. So whichever one you need, go ahead and do it. We're going to make sure that our knees are hip width apart. And then when we put our arms down, a couple of things to keep in mind. So just like our feet, when it's grounded, we want to make sure that our hand, when we put it down, it's kind of like a high five. And we're going to make sure that every point in our hand and in our palm is touching the mat. So you're pretty much like, it almost feels like you're gripping it. And that's what keeps you grounded. So as we put our hands down, we need to make sure that they are flat and grounded. We want to make sure that our shoulders are over our wrists so that we're not like this and we're not like this. And then they're also shoulder width apart, okay? So this is called tabletop. When we're in neutral position, we make sure that from our head to our bum, it's all one line, okay? And you're making sure that you're not dumping weight down, you're not going up yet. Right now, we're just in neutral position, okay? So now when we breathe in, we're going to lift our head and we're going to lower our belly. So this is called cat, sorry, okay? And then when we exhale, no, sorry, this is cat, the other way was cow. So this is cat pose, breathing out, pushing, pushing, pushing. It's like the scaredy cats when they freak out and they push their backs out, okay? So you wanna make sure that you are pushing out of your arms too. You don't wanna be dumping weight going like this or going like this, because that's gonna hurt your shoulders. So breathing out, And then let's do it again. Breathe in, cow pose, head up, belly down. And then exhale, cat. Pushing, 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 getting a good stretch on our back. Okay. And then let's go back to neutral position. Okay. So that means just our back flat. So now we're going to go into downward facing dog. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our toes now and we're going to plug them into the mat. And then we're going to activate our glutes and our core. So we're going to tighten them up a little bit because they're going to help us to lift our legs up. So lift, 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 lift. And we're going to go into downward facing dog. So here's a couple options here. The goal is to have our back legs down with our heels down. But if we're not there yet, that's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and bend your knees, and you can be on your toes. The important thing, though, is to be pushing out of the hands, and your head should be in between your hands, looking at your belly button. Your head, you shouldn't be, there should be no tension on your head. You should just be letting it hang. Your arms strong, so don't dump it on your shoulders. You always want to push, push, push out. So your legs can stay bent if you need to, or if you can straighten them, then that's perfectly fine. Then you can straighten them too. So whichever way, like this or like this, wherever your journey is right now, then just go ahead and honor it. Okay? So let's breathe here just for a little bit. Back to that belly breathing. Making sure your hands are nice and gripped so that it doesn't slip, so you don't start slipping. Okay? And in your next inhale, we're going to push out of those, out of your feet. And then we're going to bring our right foot in, then our left foot in. And what we're going to do is called a forward fold. So that means you're going to have your belly to your thigh. So a lot of times, you know, you have to bend your knees, and you can bend your knees as much as you need to. So just to get your belly onto your thighs, your head is just going to hang, and your hands are going to be on the side of your feet. So eventually, as your flexibility gets better, the goal is to have your legs straight as you have your hands down. Okay, so this is called forward fold. And now we're going to stand. So just like we talked about in mountain pose, you're going to start pushing out of the sides of your feet, and that's going to activate your legs. You're going to feel it in your hamstrings. You're going to feel it in your glutes. You're going to even feel it a little bit in your core. And then as you're pushing out, you're using that to lift you up. A little back bend with your core engaged, and we're going to come down. Okay? So now we're going to go into sun salutation. So I'm going to show you every modification the first time around, and then we'll kind of do it the second and third time just a little bit quicker. Okay? So let's go ahead and start. Okay? So we're going to breathe in, hands up, little back bend, and then exhale. So as we exhale, we're going to dive down. So what that means is you want your head to come down first. You don't want to come down like this because that can hurt your back. So when you, if you ever hear the teacher say, you know, dive down to forward fold. So what that means is when you're up, you're literally diving. You want your head first so that it doesn't bother your lower back. So when you dive down, you come down to forward fold. So it's exactly what we did before. So bellies to thighs, okay? And we're just gonna, your head should have no tension, should just be loose, bending your legs as much as you need to. And then exhale, we're going to do a halfway lift. So halfway lift, is you want your, you need your legs straight and you want your torso to be straight. So a couple of ways to do it. So one modification is if you have a block, you can hold on to the block and you can be like this. So that helps you with your legs straight and you have something to hold on to. If you don't have a block, you can hold on to your shins or even your thighs, okay? Just make sure you're actively pushing. And if you don't need any blocks or anything, you can have your hands on the floor. Same thing, making sure that your torso is in line in your head, okay? So that's halfway lift, okay? So now we're going to plant our hands, bring our right foot back, and now our left foot back into a quick plank, okay? Now we are going to, it's called chaturanga, but we're gonna modify it with knees, chin, and chest. So what we're gonna do is just, exactly like what it sounds like. So we're gonna put our knees down, then our chin down, and then our chest down. So you're making sure that your elbows are not flared out. You always wanna make sure your elbows are behind you, like they're glued to your side. So this is a modification for chaturanga. And then we're going to push, use your legs, use your hands. You're going to push yourself up, and this is called cobra. So you wanna make sure you're not super high like this. You wanna make sure your pelvis region is on the mat. You're still pushing out of your hands. So you're not dumping weight onto your shoulders, okay? And go as high as you can. So if this is better for you, then just stay like that. It's perfectly fine, okay? So this is a cobra. And now we are going to push out of our hands and we're going to go back into that tabletop. So push, 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 push. Find your tabletop, okay? So neutral tabletop. So this helps to set us up for what we did before, which was downward facing dog. So now plugging our feet in, activating our glutes, activating our core. We're gonna push up. And now we're back into downward facing dog. So remember, if you need to keep your knees bent, that's fine. You wanna make sure that you're never in pain. So if you do something and you feel a little pain, then back up. If you do something and it feels a little maybe uncomfortable, that's okay, because you can probably breathe through it and see how you feel if you try to breathe through it. But if it's pain, then definitely back off. Okay, so here, let's take a deep breath in and a breath out. And then as we breathe in, we're gonna bring our left foot forward and then our right foot and then back to forward fold. So that's our belly to thighs. And then activating your glutes and your quads by pushing out of the side of your feet. That's gonna help you to get up, 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 up. Little back bend and release, okay? So now we're gonna do that same sequence 2 more times. So I'll do it, but with the modifications. And if you don't need them, then just go ahead and do it how you're used to doing them, okay? So grounding ourselves again, inhale up, little back bend, engaging our core, and dive down into forward fold, belly to thighs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, left foot back, Right foot back into plank pose. Now knees, chin, and chest. So knees, chin, and chest. Okay. Pushing up into cobra. Exhale, pushing, pushing, pushing into our tabletop. And then plugging our feet in, exhale. Pushing into downward facing dog. Okay, and I'll bending your knees if you need to. All righty. So let's go ahead and pull your right foot in, your left foot in, forward fold, so bellies to thighs. And then we're gonna inhale, pushing, pushing, pushing out of the side of our feet, cores and quads engaged, little back bend, and exhale. Okay, one more sound salutation. Inhale up, and exhale. All dive down, all the way down. Belly to thighs, bend your knees if you need to. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands. Left foot back, right foot back into plank. Now we're gonna do knees, chin and chest. Pushing into cobra. Back into tabletop. So making sure that every pose you hit, you acknowledge it, meaning that you're not just running through it, you're really like, okay, I'm in tabletop, I'm gonna make sure it's a good tabletop. And then when we go into the next pose, I'm gonna make sure that that's a good downward dog. Okay, so plugging our feet, exhale, coming back up to downward facing dog. Bending your knees if we need to, making sure we're pushing out of the arms, head between our arms, making sure we're looking at our belly. And exhale, bring one foot in, bring the other foot in. Halfway fold, so belly to thighs. And then again, pushing out of the sides of our feet, activating our glutes, activating our quads or core. Inhale, up, 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 up. And exhale down. Okay, so now we're going to go into, we're gonna do just alignment in Warrior Two. So we're going to start, let me go over here. So starting on just standing, we're going to take our left leg and just put it parallel to the short side of your mat. So, so you wanna make sure that you're pushing, when you push, you're pushing out of the side of your left foot. And then your right leg is going to be facing forward. So what you want to make sure is that your heel, when you look at an imaginary line, your heel should be in line, pretty much in line with your left arch, okay? So once we have that, then we're gonna focus on our front leg. So you wanna make sure that your knees, a couple of things with your knees, you wanna make sure that it is in line with your foot, that it is not pushed in, okay? It's not turned too far in or turned too far out, because that can hurt your knees. So another thing too, your front foot or your front leg, your knee shouldn't be in front of your ankles. It should be either in line with your ankles or just a little bit behind, okay? So what we're gonna do now is, now that we have, find your stance. Where do you feel the most comfortable in? And now once you're in your stance, we're going to make sure that in the front foot, what you're doing is you're pushing out of the heel. So I should be able to lift my toes and I'm still being held up. And then with my left foot or my back foot, I'm pushing out of the outside of my feet. So that means if I wanted to, I could lift my arches a little bit and I'm still not gonna fall. Okay, so what that does is when you push out of the heel and push out of the side of your back foot, it activates your legs. Remember, everything that you do, you should always be kind of activated. It should have some purpose, some intention. Okay, so body should be about facing at a 45-degree angle. You don't want to be like this or like this. So facing at a 45, torso lengthen. Okay, so this is the stance from here down. Okay, your arms, just like we practice in mountain pose, you want to make sure that your shoulders, like you lock them. So you're going to roll your shoulders back, and that locking, like your scapula, it kind of just locks into place. You want to keep it like that. You want that to be what's holding your arms up. You don't want it to be just your joints kind of like holding them up. You want it to be strong. So you're going to push, roll your shoulders back, and then you can extend your arms. Okay? So a good way to know if your arms are at the right height, because your arms should be the same height as your shoulders. So you can, one thing I learned from a yoga teacher was that you can take your thumbs and bring them in, and if they touch your shoulders, then you know you're at a good height. If they're too high and you do that, you see you're gonna hit somewhere far. Or if they're too low, you're gonna, hit somewhere else. So, so now making sure that you have the proper stance, so pushing out of the heels, pushing out of the side of the foot, making sure that your arms, you rolled your shoulders back, they're strong, your fingers are pointing, trying to touch the forward wall, your back fingers are trying to touch the back wall, and your gaze should lightly go in between, like at your middle finger. Okay, and this right here is warrior 2. So let's just take 2 breaths here. Okay, and let's release. You can put this foot straight. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, because when we do things on one side, we don't want to feel off balance. So that's why we always do things on both sides of our body. So same thing. Left foot now will be in front. Right foot will be back. So it'll be parallel to the mat. Exactly the same thing. You want to make sure knees are in line with your toes. You don't want it to be too far left, too far right. You want to make sure that you are pushing out of the heel, pushing out of the side, making sure that our hips are 45. They're not like this or like this. So facing 45-degree straight. Okay, you want to be strong. It's called warrior pose. You want to feel like a warrior. So strong, making sure that our our shoulders, roll your shoulders back, lock that scapula, those shoulder blades in, and then push your arms out. And again, if you need to, okay, you can check to make sure, okay? So go ahead and find your stance, looking lightly between at your left middle finger, and we're going to breathe in. So making sure you're pushing out of your heel and out of the side. You want to really feel it in your legs. You want it to be like a little workout. Making sure you're belly breathing. Okay, and release. Okay, so now back to our mountain pose. So just kind of roll your shoulders back, okay? We're just gonna take 2 deep breaths here. Okay, and now bending our knees all the way down until we find ourselves into a seated position. So we are going to go ahead and face one of the sides, and we're gonna do staff pose. So staff pose, just like easy pose, which is where we put our, when we were sitting crisscross and we had one foot in front of the other. If it's a little challenging keeping your spine upright, you can use a block or a blanket. And if you place it right at the base of your spine, it helps you to boop, like straighten that torso up. So it helps a lot. If you don't have a block, a pillow, or a blanket, anything kind of sturdy will help out in you being able to keep that back straight. Okay, so while we sit here too, one good thing to always do is that fleshy part under our thighs, push it out, and then put your leg down, and then do the same thing with your left. What that does is it grounds us more, you know, and it makes it more comfortable too, because sometimes our skin kind of like, we're sitting on our skin if we're doing certain things, and I know for me that is always really bothersome. So that really helps in being grounded. So we're just gonna stretch a little bit. So we're going to lift our hands up, inhale, and then as we exhale, you're going to go forward, putting your hands wherever they land. So you wanna make sure that your back stays straight. So you're going to be keeping your gaze at about a 45-degree angle as you go down. So it's not gonna be one of these. You don't want your back arched, because we're not trying to stretch our back. We're trying to stretch our hamstring. So making sure that our back is straight, and then you go forward as much as you can. And one of the things that I like to do is when I breathe in, I kind of imagine myself finding length. So I kind of feel like my breath is coming from the earth, coming into my torso, coming out of my head. So it lengthens me. And then as I exhale, I fold a little deeper into my stretch. Okay. So like I said, wherever you are holding, that is perfectly fine. Sometimes here, that's as far as we can go, and that is fine too. Okay. So just staying here, breathing in and out for maybe 2 breaths. Okay, so now we're gonna find ourselves going back. So we bent forward, so now we're gonna do a little back bend just to counter that pose. So laying back down, make sure that your legs are hip width apart, and we're just gonna do a little bridge pose. So all that is you're going to push out of your heels, and you're gonna just slightly activate your core and your quads. You're gonna push up a little bit. Right there, we don't wanna overextend, so you don't need to go way up, just enough to get a good stretch. Making sure your glutes are engaged, your core is engaged a little bit, okay? Making sure you're pushing out of the heels. And release. Go ahead and bring both of your legs in, and just give yourself a little hug. And if you need to, go from side to side, sometimes that feels good, because it's kind of like a little massage on your back. Okay. So now putting our putting our feet at about 90 degrees. We're going to take our arms and we're going to extend them. And using your core, you're going to bring your left and your right foot down, all the way down to the left side. If this is uncomfortable, you can definitely put a blanket in between them. Or if you have a block or a pillow, you can put them in between them. Okay? Whatever feels comfortable for you. You can put your left hand on top of your right knee and your right hand. So the further down you go, the stretch is going to be less intense. The higher you go, the stretch is going to be more intense. Okay? So wherever you want to you want to put it, go ahead and do that. You just want to make sure that there's no tension throughout the body. Okay, every time you breathe, try to envision just letting go of the tension that you are feeling in your legs, in your arms, wherever you're feeling it. And we're just gonna stay here for just maybe 2 breaths. Okay. Now, putting our hands to our side again, trying to use our core. Let's bring our legs up, okay? And now we're just gonna do exactly the same thing on the other side. So just bring your right legs down, okay? Same thing. You can put your right hand on your left knee and your left hand, you can put it down, further up, wherever you need to. And if you can, I forgot to mention it in the other side, I invite you to look to the left, but if that's too much for your neck, then you can just look wherever you were looking before. One interesting thing that you should always be cognizant of what's going on in your body. Like, for example, I know that when I do it on this side, I feel it more. Like, it's a little bit tougher for me to twist on this side, whereas when I twist to the left, it doesn't bother me as much. It really doesn't bother me. But this side, I can kind of feel it. I know that I need to work on this side. And what that means is that you need to be paying attention to what you do outside of the mat. So, for example, if you're sitting down a lot and you cross your left foot over your right, or your right foot over your left all the time, or just the way you stand, all those things that you do outside of the mat, that's what you notice when you do stretches here. So it's always good to know what's going on with your body, because then you can kind of try to pay attention to it outside of the mat. For example, I've been working really hard on my stance, like how I stand, because I know I twist one foot one side more. So I always try to constantly be reminding myself, okay, remember to make sure my feet are like this, or make sure that I'm not crossing one leg over the other. So just little things to always be mindful of. Okay, so again, let's breathe here for a little bit. Okay, now using your core, bring your feet up, up, up. Okay, we're gonna keep them here at 90 degrees. Let's go ahead and put our left foot or our left ankle on top of our right knee, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our arms, and I'm gonna thread my left arm in between that little hole that it made when I crossed my legs. And then I'm going to enlace them in the back, and then I'm gonna bring my right leg in, But as I bring my right leg in, I'm going to be actively pushing my left knee out. So it's like two opposing forces. So you're getting a good stretch when you're bringing it in, and then you're getting a good stretch on your left hip when you're pushing that leg out. So just being mindful, your toes being always active. Try to spread them out and release. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So taking our right ankle, crossing it over to our left knee, interlacing our feet, interlacing our hands behind our left leg. And then you're going to be pushing your left leg in while you're actively pushing your right knee out. So you have those two opposing forces. Getting a good stretch on your right hip this time. Okay. Let's release. Go ahead and bring your feet together, your knees together onto your body, and go ahead and hug. Give them a good hug, and you can twist left and right again. Okay. So now we're going to go into our last pose, Shavasana. So that is corpse pose. It's the last pose we do always in yoga. And the reason we do it is that everything we did throughout the sequence, when you're laying down, it's your body's time to absorb it, to take in everything you did to it, to relax. Okay, so a couple of ways we can do this. So the usual way is you put your legs out and your palms up, and you can stay like this if it's comfortable. If you want to put your hands on your belly, that's fine. If you want one on your heart, one on your belly, that's good. Sometimes, I know for me in the early morning when I do a little sequence, sometimes my lower back bothers me. So one of two ways. So you can either take your feet kind of mat width apart and let gravity push them together. And you can do Shavasana like this. Or you can also do like a restorative type of Shavasana, which if you have a blanket, you can put it under your lower back to kind of help you, and if you have some soreness. So whatever is comfortable, go ahead and find that position. Okay. Okay. And then I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. And you're going to be letting go of that belly breathing, and you're going to just be breathing normally, making sure that your mouth is closed and part open your teeth. Making sure also that your neck is long. So kind of tuck your chin in a little bit. I invite you to close your eyes, but if it's fine if you don't. Okay. And we're just going to breathe here for a little bit. And as you lay here, just envision your body melting to the floor. As you're laying here, imagine a beautiful white sphere that comes out of the earth, just right under your feet. It's glowing, it's white, it's pulsating, and it's warm. And envision that sphere entering your feet. And as it slowly passes your body, it's going to release all the tension that you have. So imagine it going through your feet and your feet just melting to the floor and losing all that tension. And imagine it moving slowly further up into your shins, into your knees, letting go of any little tension you might have, especially behind your knees. Moving up slowly, pulsating, just giving off that warm, warm, warm light, pulsating into your uh, thighs, letting go of tension. And then imagine it slowly going to your hips, where, oof, our hips and our lower back, that's where we always tend to hide a lot of that stress, a lot of that tension. That's why we get a lot of low back pain. So just imagine that light just pulsating, just releasing little bubbles of light, just kind of zapping all that tension. And your pelvis just melting to the floor. Then imagine it moving further up into your belly, to your ribs. And then it finds its home in your heart. And it's sitting there just pulsating, just warmth everywhere. Now imagine little bubbles coming out of this sphere. And these little bubbles travel all the way down your arms, hitting your little fingers, releasing all that tension, releasing tension in your wrists, your forearms, elbows, your biceps, releasing all that tension. Your arms should be now just melting, melting, melting to the floor, feeling all like tingly inside. Picture those little bubbles now going into your shoulders. Another big part that we hold tension. That's why sometimes we get kinks in our necks, because we don't realize that we are pushing our shoulders up because of stress. So just allow those little bubbles just to zap all that stress away from your shoulders. Just letting your shoulders meld, 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 meld to the floor. Just getting really tingly and just feeling that warmth. And then picture those little bubbles, those little white spheres moving up your neck, releasing tension. And now moving to your head and releasing all that little tension, those little spots that we never realize we hold it, on the side of our lips, in our nose. Big one is our forehead, between our eyes, and on the side of our eyes. Just picture those little spheres just releasing all that tension, and your head just like melting onto the floor. And that sphere continuously, just imagine it pulsing and pulsing. And it's just with those little bubbles just shooting that light all throughout your body. So your body should feel weightless and just becoming one with the ground. You can't find the difference between the ground and your body. And in your mind, coming back to that intention you set for the day. Let that guide your day when you go off the mat. Now we're going to breathe here just for a couple breaths, just for a little bit. Okay. Now slowly coming back into your awareness. Go ahead and spread your toes. And you can even lift your arms if you need a good stretch. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Bring your right foot up onto the mat, your feet onto the mat. And then pushing out of your right foot, bring your left foot onto the mat. Okay. Now inhale. Moving over to the side. Moving over to your right side. So just kind of bend your...
Motion detected at the front door camera.
Sorry about that. Bending your right foot or leg to the right. And then with your left hand, pushing yourself as you exhale all the way up. Okay. You can keep your eyes closed if you'd like. Go ahead and put your hand in Anjali Mudra, prayer position. Breathing in and out. And I'd like to bring you back again to that intention for the day. Just let that drive your day. I'd also like to thank you guys for joining me. As we breathe in, let's go ahead and just send just good thoughts to all the wonderful people that were able to join us today through Zoom. And as you exhale, send it to them. And then as you inhale, take in all those good thoughts that everybody sent. And exhale. I'd like to thank you guys a lot for joining me. This was my first time teaching after my final project for my class. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I hope you guys liked it. So thank you so much, and namaste.